Okay guys, this is video 2. We're talking about, we've gotten into the Helikon-Tex Swagman roll. That's what we're into at the moment. So I talked to you a little bit about it, and I'm just going to keep talking. So I'm going to tell you some things that I like about this a lot. Okay. Number one, I watched this product for several years. I didn't just run out and buy it after somebody did a tabletop review and hadn't even wore it yet or whatnot. But I watched this product for a few years. That's the first thing I did. I watched what other people had to say about it. Good and bad on their opinion, right? And mostly good. The earlier ones were a little small in the head and neck, but I think they either changed that or most people have a larger head and neck than I do. I didn't have any issues with it. Seems to be okay to me. I looked at several other, since this has come out a few years now, and it's been on the market a few years, what always inevitably happens is that you have other companies come out with their own version, right? Now I have seen the Hill People gear, Mountain Serap or whatever they call it. I have seen also Corinthia has something out. Some people could, some people compare the Snug Pack Patrol poncho liner to it. Okay, but I believe, yeah, the poncho liner was out first. It has arms though, right? It's not a wrap. Now, what made me choose Helikon-Tex over Hill People gear and Corinthia? Okay, well, the first thing that really stood out about the Helikon-Tex is the insulation that they use, which is ClimaShield. ClimaShield is the foundation for Wiggy's insulation Lamilite. Okay, when you get a Wiggy's sleeping bag, or other insulated product, it's insulated with Lamilite. Lamilite over time does not lose its loft even if you compress it. That's why the military uses it in some of their products for long-term storage for emergencies. Okay, so ClimaShield is the base. That's the foundation of Lamilite. This is the actual insulation. Okay. And then why does Wiggy's call it Lamilite? Because they laminate it in a certain way for their sleeping bags to kind of keep it evenly distributed, so that if you have a large area, it prevents you from having to sew channels and stuff all throughout the bag to keep your insulation where you need it. And then that way it cuts it. There's two things that comes from that. It cuts down on the cost of sewing all those areas to keep the insulation in one spot or where it should be. Another thing is it makes it more insulating. You stay warmer over a longer, you stay warmer because you don't have cold spots caused by the sewing and stuff, right? So if you look at my Wiggy's Antarctica bag, it's all one sheet of material, and the Lamilite insulation is in there, and it doesn't move. It's just in there. Okay. Yeah. So that's one thing about this is ClimaShield. It's there, it's in there, and I don't have to think about it. All right. ClimaShield wicks water away from you. So if you're sweating or you got soaking wet, eventually the water will wick its way out, right? Wiggies, they did a demonstration with a blowtorch, actually with a flamethrower on one of their sleeping bags, their Lamilite sleeping bags, and all it did was it melted a hole in the outer material of the sleeping bag, but the Lamilite did not catch on fire. So Lamilite's made with ClimaShield, so that's another plus, right? So if this is real ClimaShield, which it should be, because this is I consider Helikon-Tex to be a reputable product. ClimaShield's not going to catch on fire. Now, if you look at PrimaLoft, which another company uses, number one, I've tested PrimaLoft. It did not keep me warm for anything. It did not insulate hardly at all. Number two, it's very flammable. So I took some PrimaLoft out of some gloves here a while back, you saw in the videos, and I took a bit of it and held a lighter to it, and it went right up. So that's a negative, right? Number one, didn't keep me warm. Number two, it's very flammable. So PrimaLoft, no. Now, when you look at the Corinthia product, right, from Europe, I looked at their sleeping bags at one time. I thought about getting one, but I never did because it just seems too, it just seems to be rated, it's the rating, I mean, it's too big. It's too big and heavy for the lightweight rating that it had, in my opinion, right? So I'm looking for something for like -40 Fahrenheit, okay, or better, okay. The Antarctica bag that I have is a double bag. It's rated for -80 Fahrenheit, okay. But the thing is that the Corinthia version of this is made with the same insulation as the sleeping bags that they use, or that they make, right? With the G1000. Now, since I decided to not get a Corinthia sleeping bag because I thought it was very overpriced back at the time, because it was a number of years ago. Now their sleeping bags, they seem to be reasonably priced, but they still don't have really good ratings for deep cold, okay. But they use G1000, which is their own version of 100% polyester batting, I guess. And then they use G1000 in their Corinthia wrap. I don't remember what, you know, whether it's a poncho liner or what. Anyway, they use G1000 in that. But since I don't have any background with that insulation, I can't really speak on how well it would keep me warm. But I could say this, that their version of this is so expensive. I mean, we're talking hundreds of dollars. It just doesn't make any sense. And, you know, in Corinthia, the past few years has been very, very expensive for what it is. And I don't really understand where they get those kinds of prices, or, you know, some people are crazy enough to buy them. You know, it better be made there, which I believe is Austria. It better be made there for those kinds of prices. But if it's made in China for those kinds of prices, somebody's smoking some really bad stuff. You know, they've been inhaling some really bad things. You know, and they're off their rocker. Now, let's get back to the Swagman roll. We're going to stop talking about other products, and we're going to talk about the Swagman. And I took this because it has a solid reputation. So I took this, like I said, on the Veristalica Remote Military March, which was the overnighter, the recce, and I rolled this up like a sausage and I strapped it to the top of the large Alice pack that I had with me. And the weather was not great, so I zipped this up in sleeping bag form and I rolled it to where the opening was on the inside center, and then I strapped it to the top of the rucksack and onward, right? So the weather was a bit inclement. It was at that point where it wasn't raining, but it was a very wet environment. You know, the moisture was in the air. Yeah, a little drizzle here and there. Fog, very moist, wet, but not raining conditions. So I'm going along, and everything's, you know, fine. You know, and then I got to the point where I'm going to use it. I took it off and I shook it and put it on, and I warmed right up. No issues. Okay. The inside was actually dry. The outside was just a little bit damp, you know, from the fog and whatnot. I actually saw some beads of water on it, okay, on the outside of the material where it was strapped down. Alright. So, the out and back, no issues. But then I had something very interesting happen at the end. So, you know, as you know, probably know, I was dropped off and picked up. So I arranged for my drop off and my pickup with the same person, and I got to my pickup point, and it was later. You know, it was a bit cold. It was in the 40s. It was a bit cold for just this, and I had on wool long underwear. And of course I had been sweating from, you know, ruck marching. Got to my exfil point. You know, put in the call, and starting to get chilly. It was wet, and I've got a minute left. It was the same types of conditions as the you know, when I started off, and noticed all the dampness. But anyway, took this thing off, unrolled it, unzipped it, shook it, put it on, and clipped it back up, and I warmed right up. You know, no issues whatsoever. And I'm coming back in another video. We'll talk about this just a little bit more. I'll see you there.